My name is Treasa Urconis, and I'll be talking about February 26, 1972, the flood, the Bufffalo Creek flood. And this is just my personal story of how it went. Okay, there were cars driving by on the highway. They were blowing their horns, telling people in the homes to get out and leave. A dam had burst, and we needed to get out quickly. My dad and brothers were gone. The creek had already rose from the rain that came down all night long and that morning. They went to look at the creek to see if it was rising. The neighbors had all left except one, and our neighbor was ready to pull out on the highway at Brayhome, and he saw my mom in the yard. And he backed up and told Mom to get the kids and go with his family and get out of there. Mom started crying and told her neighbor, "No, I can't leave. James is not here and he has my boys. I can't leave without him." And he told her, "You have to." Said, "You have to leave right now." And so at this time, my mom passes out over a fence line. And the neighbor and his wife, they just grabbed my mom and put her in the car. And then our neighbor tells us girls, "Get in the car, get in the car." So as we were leaving, my dad is coming back home with the boys. So the neighbor tells him and stops him and talks to him and tells him, "We're going up Ackerville Holler to my mother-in-law's house to get away from this water. You just come and follow me." So my dad and brothers followed him. After they took the women and the children inside the house to put them in safety, the men go back to the railroad tracks to watch the water. They weren't gone long, and my dad and the neighbor, they see our house coming down the creek, flooded creek, and it finally hits a bridge above Bufffalo Grade School. It splits in pieces in the air, and my dad watches the three bedrooms upstairs just like splinters coming back down. And then the whole house, it just shatters and falls completely away. And the flood just takes it under. It's all gone. We stayed in the hollow until they could make a little dirt road for us so we could get out. Then we went to Greenville and stayed with our aunt and uncle. Then they let us live in a little church at Gilman Bottom. They let us move into the kitchen part of it. And we stayed there about 4 days. And then they moved a bunch of trailers into Green Valley, HUD did, and they moved us into 2 side-by-side trailers over there. My parents and 7 kids. And at first you couldn't get back up Bufffalo Creek. They gave out passes to people wanting to check on their home sites eventually. Then my parents finally bought a double-wide trailer, and they moved it back on our land at Bufffalo Creek at Brayhome. Then the state came and gave my mom and dad $1 and told us that we have to move away from there, that they're going to build new highways, and everyone had to leave. So at that time, there was only 2 families had moved back, so both families had to move. And then in 1974, Mom and Dad bought property and built a new house at Verner. And all of this happening has been about 50 years ago. If the media was as thick as it is today, they could have produced enough stories and news actually for a TV movie. And it would be to just show others what people really went through, because they just didn't know what people went through. They can tell stories, but still, To me, I saw enough. I didn't need no story. I saw enough of just what I saw. It was very little, but it was enough for me to see. And my story, it's not as severe as others, but looking at a man looking at his wife with 7 kids and no place to take them and nowhere to live and no groceries, no food, no nothing. It was very sad for my dad and mom to go through this. But it was sad and depressing what people went through, losing their loved ones, being pulled out of their arms, trying to hold on with their life to their loved ones. So many friends were lost we went to school with. The hospitals were full and running helicopters to the hospitals and makeshift morgues for people's families. And shelter was set up. Food and clothing were sent to Mann High School for families. Lots of families stayed at Mann High School. And this is just a little story, but my brother's birthday was February the 27th. My mom had took me into the kitchen the night before the flood on the 25th and showed me his birthday cake. She also bought some potato chips, ice cream, cookies, just for a little birthday party. But we was going to have it on Saturday before the flood hit. But the flood hit. I remember that little white cabinet with all the stuff in it. But because of everything that happened, the party was never even mentioned. We never even thought about that party. But 50 years ago, a birthday party, it was just a simple cake, ice cream, chips. But with 7 kids, it was a big deal to know you lost your birthday cake. We were very blessed to have gotten out alive, because in about 10 minutes' time, after our neighbors got us, my dad and our neighbor watched the house be destroyed, and we could have also been destroyed with it. Don't want to mention his name because I didn't clear it with his family, but what a great neighbor he and all of our neighbors at Brayholm were. We lost our whole neighborhood, the whole community, and our neighbors scattered, but our neighborhood will always be in our hearts. A lot of neighbors we still run into from time to time and get to talk to them. But the folks at the bottom of the hollow were surely blessed. The people who lived on up the hollow, all along Bufffalo Creek, was not as fortunate as we were. So many deaths, bodies being pulled out from every area, families losing their loved ones, and suffering from grief and depression. Bufffalo Creek was never the same, even with the new highway and new homes all along the valley. Some things money can't buy back. The love of people, peace, and the kids playing with each other and staying overnight with their friends. The closeness and safety of letting your children loose with other kids to play. Seems like after the flood, the drugs started coming in, and people got above their raising. People started living out of their heads with their ways of thinking and not from their hearts to try to be good to everybody. We still have to give God thanks for saving all those that did survive. I'm thankful my story is just a personal story and not a story about death or anything else. But I was heartbroken for all the other families with the stories of their loved ones. I pray this never happens again, but really, we just don't know what we are going to face in life. We are very blessed with a very small town to live in, though, where people will still help each other in really tough times. And I just pray that God watches over all of us.